Welcome in, everybody. Hope you had a great weekend. Nothing really happened in the weekend in entertainment, so you should be ready for a lot of entertainment today. As we're ready for the SMITE Console League Aggro, joined by Taco on the desk. And Taco, we're going to start, as we always do, with European PS4.
And I know that these guys are probably looking pretty excited for this matchup. I know Outcold Gaming certainly trying to keep things going strong for themselves over in Europe.
Absolutely. 6-0 so far on the season for Outcold. And coming off a bye week, you'd expect them to keep it hot. But that being said, Bedtime's calling's their opponent today. They're the second seed right now. And as I mentioned, they're coming off a bye week. Everyone in the SCL had last week off. They had an opportunity to recuperate a little bit, have a week off, relax, but also extra prep time. And I wonder if that could work against Outcold here, that Bedtime's Calling had that much more time to prepare against the best team in the region.
It should definitely, I think, help the Bedtime's Calling, at least as far as drafting is concerned, or perhaps even better to understand and break down Outcold's sort of play style. I think that Outcold has definitely made a name for themselves over in Europe by the fact that their jungler just seems to be doing a little bit better than most right now.
Absolutely. Kinder Warrior has looked great so far for this team, but it hasn't just been him. It's been Synortis in the mid lane, Just Lion and ADC from time to time. Fatality Fire's had a couple really good sets in the solo lane. You don't get to 6 or 7-0 by being, okay in mid and jungle and average everywhere else. You really have to be a whole unit if you want to be undefeated this long into the season.
I think one big thing, too, about Outcold Gaming is the simple fact that they just seem like a team that really knows how to punish when the other teams mess up. Because throughout Outcold's sets, I think that we've noticed multiple games where they've actually been behind for a decent portion of it, and then they'll actually just come back through the mid and early or late game because of their team fighting prowess. So as long as Outcold can kind of just remain centralized around their mid jungle, I think that they're going to be set as far as punishment is concerned.
Now, on the other side for Bedtime's Calling, this is a squad that, as we've seen, has had some success and some downfalls, 3-3 so far on the season. And their mid jungle, I think, is going to have to really step up. Just as you said, Taco, I mean, Kinder Warrior and Synortis has looked great for Outcold. So what can Ollie and Sarpei do this time around to try and set themselves up for some success?
I think the big thing is just going to be about these two just being in sync for once. One big thing that I've noticed about Bedtime's Calling is that whenever Sarpei is on point, it's usually going to work out really well. He tends to play a lot of utility-based gods that really, if they have the follow-up necessary, then all you've got to do is just connect. And I think that one big thing about teams like Bedtime's Calling is that they've clearly gotten better over time, and like all these sets throughout the weeks that have already happened, they've definitely been beneficial for this squadron. But I definitely still think that there's like a couple of pieces that tend to go loose.
Yeah, I think in particular for me, I'm looking at the solo lane as well. Kana up against Fatality Fire. I think Fatality Fire's had a bunch of really, really good sets for this squad, and if they can set him up for some success on gods like Achilles and Guan Yu, some of those more popular picks we've seen so far in the PS4 side of the console league, then this could be another victory for Outcold Gaming.
Well, with how often Outcold Gaming tend to try and prioritize just Lion's pick, I wouldn't be too surprised to maybe see Bedtime's Calling look to kind of buckle down on the dual lane, at least for some of the earlier portions of their draft, maybe trying and get some of those ideal gods like the Freya possibly for Bedtime's Calling, although that might be rough depending on which pick they actually end up with for the first game.
I'm excited to see how these teams have adjusted from the beginning of the year to now. I mean, the bye week included, they get a week off where they can all get together and watch some SPL games and SML games and see exactly what all the top teams in each region are doing on other leagues. And we don't have to wait very long. Picks and bans ready now for game number 1 between these two. But I think that this is a good opportunity to see what they've learned so far from the SPL in particular.
And I'm glad that you brought that up, because this is right around that point in the year where we start to see some of that influence from the SPL carry over into the console league. And there's a lot of similarities as far as meta are concerned between the two. And normally I think that there's an argument to be had that when it comes to PC and console play, that separate metas tend to develop as a direct result of some of the gods that just tend to be easier to facilitate on console. But I don't think that's necessarily the case anymore. I think that players now for console are starting to reach a point where they can actually just play gods that are a little bit more, I guess, skill focused, because some of those skill shots are a lot more difficult to hit on the sticks.
Absolutely, but that isn't dissuading Bedtime's Calling from banning away the Uller from Just Lion on the other side. And Outcold really focusing out Kana in the solo lane. So I wonder if Outcold's going to pick something like a Bologna here or Achilles potentially and set themselves up for solo success. Instead, they're going to elect for that Xbalanque. You called it. They like to prioritize Just Lion's pick early.
And Just Lion having that Darkest Night as well is going to be a beneficial asset to the rest of the team also. For Bedtime's Calling here, maybe responses of, I was going to say the Bacchus, but still finding a little bit of Guardian play nonetheless with the Jormungandr. And we've been seeing a lot of Jormungandr pick focus composition, so maybe in a Wheelish to help back that up. Get a little bit of that splice effect going, but Mercury instead, Bedtime's Calling clearly wants some global assistance.
I'm surprised Mercury this early on in the draft, though, Taco. I mean, we've seen very, very little Mercury at all so far this year. Why do you think Bedtime's Calling pick it up so early here?
Sometimes you just want to prioritize a jungle pick that's got a little bit of that global assistance, I think, because when you're dealing with the Darkest Night, the only way that I think you could reasonably force a team back is also you don't want to have them funneling all into one choke point in case a Sonic Boom comes ripping through the team fight. So I think that this could be a relatively important pickup for Bedtime's Calling, depending on how well they're able to actually utilize that ult.
I gotta say though, I love what Outcold has done so far with these first 3 picks in the draft. Xbalanque, Hunbats, Achilles. Hunbats has been really heavily prioritizing the PS4 side of the console league since it started last year. For whatever reason, every jungler on PS4 seems to love this selection. And then Xbalanque and Achilles, these are 2 really strong picks in the meta as well. I think Outcold got away with the better top half for sure.
I have a hard time disagreeing with that. The thing about Bedtime's Calling is that I don't think that Jormungandr, Mercury, or Jingwei are bad gods by any means, but as far as how well they actually sync up together, that's where a couple of question marks are sort of raised, because Jingwei, she's going to have a lot less pressure during the early portions of that laning phase, and that's not too big of a deal when you're up against the Xbalanque, as long as you're okay with maybe losing out on having the creep clearing your advantage. But the Jormungandr is what strikes me as odd here, because there's not a whole lot of hard CC right now for Bedtime's Calling. They're definitely going to continue to struggle as well, I think, finding some more of that crowd control, because Giannis, I mean, he's got a lot of mobility, so that goes hand in hand with Bedtime's Calling the rest of their movement, but all they really have right now, I feel, is mobility. They don't necessarily have a whole lot of lockdown or hard crowd control that I think is going to really allow this Mercury and Jingwei to profit from their damage.
So we'll see if Bedtime's Calling want to pick a heavy CC Guardian in their last selection, or a Warrior of some sort. But Outcold Gaming's draft all rounded out now. Scylla and Fafnir. There's a good amount of control. I don't know if it's enough for a Scylla selection. I usually like to see teams pick Scylla when they've got overwhelming amounts of crowd control, where it's very, very easy for the mid laner to hit off that setup. We'll see if that's the case for Outcold, as Bacchus is the final selection here for Bedtime's Calling. Is this the heavy CC Guardian you think they needed?
It adds a little bit, but I think it's mostly a damage boon for Bedtime's Calling.
We'll have to wait and see if that's enough damage or if they're lacking in the control department. Outcold looking to stay perfect up against Bedtime's Calling and the rest of the PS4 league. Let's throw it over to the casters.
Looking to stay perfect, but it might be difficult. Bedtime's Calling, the only team to put a wound on Outcold here so far. Game number 1, it's Finch and Anatoly here on the call. PS4 EU first and second place about to get underway.
This is the rematch, the third rematch between these two teams. Week number 1 and 5 did go to Outcold Gaming, but this is the only team, like you mentioned, Finch, that found even a game victory up against Outcold Gaming. Still undefeated at a 6-0 record. Bedtime Calling currently in the middle of the pack at 3-3, still can have potential to start climbing if they can find their victories today. And with their composition, I'd say that they have the potential to really snowball it. It's a very aggressive draft with this Bacchus and Mercury.
That's right. They've got a ton of mobility, as it looks like there was an attempt to strip away the speed buff, but not going to be able to grab that one. Defended successfully by Kinder Warrior. But they've got a lot of rotational ability, right? I mean, this Jormungandr, the Mercury ultimate can hit from across the map, the Giannis portals, obviously, and then even Jingwei to some extent, if she backs Rapid Reincarnation, can help her cover some distances. So that's what I'm looking for from this team early on, right? Is to make use of their ability to get across the map.
I think thematically, Denial is trying to kind of stick it to Kinder Warrior, monkeying around at his own speed buff there, as we heard the laughs, being able to secure his own blue buff. But a lot of Guardians have been doing this level 1 aggressive strategy of trying to invade the speed buff, and Bacchus, with his changes to his Chug being available to level 1 without actually putting a point into it, gives him that ability to invade very effectively if you wanted to get the Belch for the stun, or if you just want to apply the slow afterwards with the belly flop. And keep in mind, you get extra magical power while you are tipsy and smashed. So I think Bacchus might probably be your go-to Guardian of choice for these invades.
He's definitely one of the stronger ones early on, but it looks like these two teams have different ideas about where these Guardians should be early on, as Kinder Warrior gets a ton of free damage in onto the mid and support here in the middle lane. Remember, they've left Dragon King over there in that duo lane. He's there alongside just Lion. So maybe Outcold Gaming, the premier team here in PS4, don't quite agree. The support should be off on their own.
Also, Sarpe able to make his rotation now in the mid lane. He hasn't been sharing too many ways, just been in the jungle, and that allowed Kinder Warrior to sneak in the offensive back camp steal, but getting severely punished.
I think that's a kill on Kinder Warrior if they time that correctly, but not quite able from Denial there to CC correctly, and so the belly flop's not there. But Kinder Warrior then jumped in place anyway afterwards, so apparently he was okay being there.
I think that he was calculating maybe the rotation from the Fafnir would have been fruitful, but no kills after the fact. So yeah, even if the CC from the Bacchus was a little bit more effective in timing that out with the Hunbat's jump, still would have been A-okay. The solo lane matchup, though, between the Achilles and the Jormungandr, haven't really talked about that. We're seeing Fatality Fire trying to finish off the Gladiator Shield as quickly as possible, whereas Cinna is going to play a little bit more carefully and methodically by going for a health chalice instead.
I should give him the sustain he'll need. It's worked out so far. He's at least ahead in terms of these Warrior Blessing stacks up against the Achilles, though that could potentially be a problem for him later on. We talk a lot about how the execute from the Achilles can be tough to land sometimes. It's so telegraphed, you can juke out of it. Much harder to do if you're on a Jormungandr, though. I mean,
sure.
He's such an easy target for just about everything, including Fatality Fire's execute.
He's a thicky boy, so very easy to confirm a lot of abilities on him specifically. And that Warrior's Blessing out of Fatality Fire going to go a long way in this matchup, knowing Saina's damage from his basic attacks is like kind of rapid machine gun fire. It's just small amount of damage, but in high rapid succession. So even that 3 damage reduction goes a long way.
Every little bit helps. As it looks like they're going to keep Denial here in the middle lane on this Bacchus. He's been splitting with them almost 3 ways, basically all game long. And so far you have seen it has put this Giannis a little bit behind Synordis, which is surprising. A lot of the times you see Giannis with a bit of a lead because they move around the map so fast. So I don't know totally. Is this the best place for our supports to be, just kind of soaking up in mid?
It depends what you're trying to get out of it. If you're trying to put pressure on the mid to invade buffs after the fact, then I would agree by doing that, trying to invade some red buffs and speed buffs. But so far from these Bacchus rotations in mid lane, Bedtime's Calling weren't able to go for the reds or the speeds. So it's definitely hurting out Raid, like you were talking about, giving Synordis the level 5 first, but Outcold Gaming hasn't taken advantage yet with Alma Monster.
That's right. They might still have some opportunities, as Kinder Warrior now has Fear No Evil available to him, and those combinations are good, though there's plenty of beads online for Bedtime's Calling as well. Sarpe, Raiden, and Scott Bros all electing to pick up that relic to get them out of the control coming out from Outcold. So even though they have that small window, they might not have the best time to capitalize. And now that Raiden does have his ult as well, there's CC immunity there. So it's not going to be the easiest task for them to lock this team down.
Definitely agree. In this dual lane matchup, Xbalanque versus the Jingwei, we're seeing the Transcendence rushed all the way beyond getting even a Hunter's Blessing, just Lion wanting that mana, the damage, the EMP5 to spam those bolas, whereas Scott Bros just rushing off the Ninja Tabi, not interested in Devil Gloves quite yet. So this is a good time, actually, if Just Lion wants to be aggressive while there's no buffs to get, to look for the poke on the Jingwei. Even with the Jingwei passive coming back to the lane effectively, just pushing some of the minions under the tower is going to severely hurt her power curve that she's normally expecting.
This feels like good recognition, though, doesn't it, of the way the meta has swung and how hunters are left alone. Now that you're basically on an island, maybe you should be just doing Transcendence. I mean, you got all day, apparently, to worry about getting that stacked up, even though it can be kind of slow and expensive. So Just Lion, once he gets his boots online, he's made it through the scary part of going this Transcendence build, and then he'll just have a bajillion power and never run a mana, and you'll forget all about this early game where maybe there was a small open.
Interesting ultimate out of Raiden over there at that blue buff, but look what Outcold Gaming is going to do in response. Without that Giannis ultimate, I think Outcold got this for free.
I think so too. Dragon King is taking quite a bit of damage with that AoE Coerce, the I'm a Monster for the confirm. It doesn't even matter that they have the confirm because Bedtime's Calling didn't even recognize this was happening. Now they'll have the idea as they try and lock down Kinder Warrior, but he still has that leap and he's out of there. A big win for Outcold catching Bedtime's Calling napping.
And aggression meets aggression. There was an idea behind Bedtime's Calling ulting over that blue buff. They had a ward over there. They wanted to time that invade perfectly. And unfortunately for them, it wasn't started quite yet, so they couldn't really find the successful collapse upon there. Kindred Warrior was there also, so it deterred the gank a little bit. And with that knowledge and information from Outcold Gaming, they used that, knowing that the rotation from Bedtime Calling, even if they knew the Gold Fear would have been started, that at least the members on the right side of the map wouldn't have been present. And knowing that Giannis ultimate is down versus Scylla ultimate that's up, that's a very calculated risk that Outcold Gaming takes. And come out successful at the 6-minute mark, Finch.
That's right. So now that they've been able to grab it, they can hold on to the very first lead here of this game, and that's something that Bedtime's Calling have to keep in the back of their mind, right? That the Fafnir with the Coerce and with the Shibalanke over there, they can do that at any time in this game. Fear no evil, though, well timed. They picked a good target. Denial doesn't have the CC immunity available to him. That's an easy kill for Dragon King to clean up, and Bacchus goes to sleep.
With the underhanded tactics, jumping up and down and missing the belly flop, spelling the demise from Denial. I like the aggression, but he just had no follow-up, and as a 1v1, yes, Bacchus is very powerful in his own right, but without penetration boots and just by yourself, it's a little misguided aggression.
And remember, this is a bit of a different look for this team as well, and especially in the duo lane. This was once Arya Cruz and AC1 Worming that were here, and now we're seeing Scott Bros and Denial. Even Ollie used to be here as well. We'll talk more about it in a moment. This is trouble for Fatality Fire. He actually finds a window with which to escape, but it's hard to get away from the World Serpent. The first knockup's there. Sprint gets him away. He stays close to the portal because it's hard for him to stack the circles on top of each other and evades at least the ultimate, but not the damage from riding over the top.
Good rotation coming from the Giannis. Still looking for a little bit more now with TJ reviving, forcing the purification beats at a Kindred Warrior, actually even stealing away those backcams. So a good response kill. Now Bedtime's Calling could pressure out mid without the use of the Scylla ultimate.
Well, that's exactly what they were looking for last time when they dropped it through space and time, was to be over there for that blue buff and catch out Fatality Fire exactly like that. Except this time they fortunately don't have to worry about losing an objective on the back end. Just Lion has the Rising Jaguar, so he's out of danger. But good to see now the game plan for Bedtime's Calling is bearing some fruit.
And this is going to be problematic for Fatality Fire now that Breastplate of Valor has been completed for Saina. Not having Genji's Guard completed quite yet as he finishes off the boots into Gladiator Shield, there's going to be an opportunity for more kills on that right side of the map.
Kindred Warrior aggressive, but doesn't get that second bounce from the monkey onto the actual enemy, and now he's in some trouble. The first knock-up into the second knock-up, right into the special delivery, and he gets deleted. Good CC chain from Bedtime's Calling. Now Fatality Fire in a bit of trouble himself. He just came in to help out his jungler. Took a little bit more than he bargained for, but he's at least out with his life.
Just now getting back Fatal Strike ultimate, so he could look for something onto Sarpei if they're feeling a little frisky on the right side of the map. And Fatality Fire is putting himself in this position where he wants somebody to rotate over. Not too worried about the kill potential in the 1v1 with that ultimate available, but already not even a 10-minute tower on the left side of the map.
It does look like the right side is favoring Bedtime's Calling, but this left side, as we saw, they had two red buffs there for a while, only just dropped off. It has been favoring Outcold Gaming. They won't be here, though, for this respawn of the Chaos side red buff, though, so they'll be able to secure that one on their own. But right now, Bedtime's Calling kind of trading out right side pressure for left.
And whenever you're lacking on one side, look for strength on the other. Might have bit off more than he can chew as Sinna, as he's going to have to use that ultimate defensively. Could easily use it just for the clear as well. It's a good feeling when you're able to use an ability for an escape and clear at the same time.
Multiple charges, but through space and time, the better one. Raiden comes through and shotguns right to the face of Kindred Warrior. That puts him down. Sarpei needed the backup, and it was certainly there, though it does cost him his beads. This Mercury slightly more vulnerable for the next few moments.
And this is a problem for Kindred Warrior now. When he had to use the purification beads about 150 seconds ago, he got taken advantage of twice in two different sets of circumstances around the Pyromancer, around the left side mid camps. He needs to be more mindful of his positioning when that defensive relic not available to him.
He'll be mindful of it going forward, hopefully. He'll certainly need to be, as he's gone into the Jotuns, got some extra cooldown to try and help him get these ultimates off more often. The problem is he just hasn't been able to quite find purchase. It's likely going to have to be Denial that they can punish until he gets too tanky, since he's the one lacking in CC immunity, but everyone else has the beads. Even Raiden has two forms of the ultimate. So he still hasn't quite been able to get all the way there yet on this Unbots.
A little bit of action on the left side of the map. Dragon King rotating alongside Synortis. Getting blown up is Sarpei. Good crush out of Synortis.
Well, Aggro said he wanted to see some control. As long as you land your hammer stuns, then it should be easy to confirm crushes off the back of him. Synortis, the beneficiary there of good CC coming out from his support. And that means now the Oni Fury, rather, is on the menu. They still have a little bit of that AoE coerce, and they'll drop that down for just Lion. It's really only going to be Denial that can come through, or rather Scott Bros to try and defend. He does drop the Wind Gust, but Kinder Warrior zones away too with the Fear No Evil. That means Outcold secure their second Fury of the game.
12 minutes in as well. Right side of the map, a little bit of contention over that blue buff. Scott Bros having to use that airstrike defensively. The dots just not enough to pluck away the bird.
And man, this dual lane has favored Outcold tremendously. So far, the Xbalanque of just Lion has had free reign over here over Scott Bros, and it's earned them 2 Furies, the Gold Fury and then the Oni Fury, which means they'll even have some minions coming through and pushing here with a little bit of extra oomph in just a few moments.
A lot of it comes down to the vision control. Outcold Gaming with the top and bottom left side mid-camp control with both Sentry Vision, and that's what allowed Outcold Gaming to make that rotation on the left side of the map. Sarpei getting punished just like Kinder Warrior without his Purification Beads, but the timing of these two deaths are different. Kinder Warrior died when Gold Fury was still down, whereas Sarpei died as it was reviving, and Synortis didn't have to use the Scylla ultimate for the kill on the squishy level 9 Mercury during that death, so he still had it available for the objective.
That's right, she's got ultimate level damage just on Crush, so easy enough for Synortis there to be able to just use the Crush to take down the target. They're now considering coming over here and grabbing one more target for themselves, and looks like no one from Bedtime's Calling is nearby, so this should be secured. But Kinder Warrior was also invaluable in securing the Oni Fury for them. That Fear No Evil cut off 2 in that narrow chokeway and really opened up the door to make sure they can grab it with no contest.
And that's the beautiful thing about just some of these abilities, where you can mix it up between offense and defense. You don't always have to use it for engage purposes. You can look for the escape path, look for zoning, look for ways to just be aggressive whenever you want to. So even though Hunbats doesn't have the most level 1 clear potential compared to most other junglers, there's a lot of merit to picking him in a competitive environment when you're trying to elevate the Scylla potentially for the late game. You need that kind of crowd control to make sure Synortis gets the freedom in the backline he needs.
We're seeing a bit of an old school build, right? The Transcendence boots into Aussie is a thing of yesteryear, except now it's the new Aussie, so it's kind of in vogue again. It's a full-blown tier 3 item now, so of course this fits in much better for the young Xbalanque. He's already got all the power he needs. Now he just gets everything else a Hunter needs, like attack speed and penetration and lifesteal and more power, so it's good.
It's pretty good.
Yeah,
and against Sarpei, honestly, I wouldn't be upset if I see him go for Ichaival as well, knowing that the attack speed is a big deal. Maybe even go for Poison Star to reduce the burst damage potential out of this late game Mercury.
Ooh, almost with the hammer there from Dragon King. Sometimes the still targets are the hardest ones. You're always expecting juice.
That's true.
And Dragon King couldn't quite lock him down, but it should be okay. They secured the Pyromancer last time it was up, the Oni Fury as well, so there's no big objectives on the map. That might be why we see them grouping here around the Tier 1 tower and considering forcing it down. But they got to be careful. Kana nearby on this Jormungandr, and so they'll take the fight directly to him. He has the World Serpent, and he'll go into it, but doesn't even have time. Kinder Warrior blows him up before he gets the chance.
That's insane how much damage they really had there, but he was left alone. Now engaging under the Tier 1 tower, wanting to find a kill. You can see how frisky they were with Synortis using the Alma Monster, and during the duration, he's like, all right, well, I might as well try to hit somebody with it.
A very nice portal there from Raiden, but it's just not enough. That means the Tier 1 tower in mid will certainly go down. Outcold Gaming have just been the ones in the driver's seat, and this is why I think they're up at the top. I know that this is Bedtime's Calling, the second place team, but they do have a bit of a different look. I wonder if they consider this at full strength now, or what exactly happened with them behind the scenes. But what Outcold does is exactly this. They come in with a game plan, they play to it all game. It's up to the rest of PS4 EU to start coming up with ways to respond.
And it's about the vision. Without the vision, they can't really tell where Outcold Gaming is going at the end of the day. That gank on the left side of the map around 12 minutes or so was so important to find their second Gold Fury, to shut down the true potential that a Mercury has to get himself to that late game, to be able to give Synortis this Scylla freedom that he needs to follow up. And so far, the aggression from Bedtime's Calling ever since the level 1 speed buff invade, since then, I haven't really seen it since.
Some more aggression. This time it's Fatality Fire. Remember, he was once behind Kana and is still a little bit behind, but now he's the one able to play aggressive, and Raiden pays for it with half his HP and has to leave. Though I'm surprised. I wouldn't have considered Outcold an early game team, one that would be coming into 17 minutes with the lead. But so far, it's been all them. In fact, Scott Bros forced out just by the pressure from Just Lion, and now they've got Denial locked down. He jumps back over the wall, though, and makes it out. But this jungle belongs to Outcold.
That's very true. The Baka is sitting at about 50% health. Needs to back to base, but Gold Fury is about to respawn. It's going to be the Primal Fury, if I'm not mistaken here. No, it's going to be the Gold Fury now at the 17-minute mark.
Nice. They'll be able to get the old-fashioned Gold Fury, and Kinder Warrior doing his normal job of zoning away Sarpei. But he's only zoning one this time. The rest of the team is there, though Outcold secure the objective anyway. Fear no evil. Gets the better of Sarpei for now, and he has to leave. But Just Lion's doing anything but puts in good damage on a Scott Bros, forces out that airstrike ultimate early, and still looking for blood is Outcold.
Where was Kana that whole time? Invading back camps, just not really present where his team needs him to be. Could find a kill potentially onto Kinder Warrior, but instead proxying between the Tier 2 and the Phoenix, actually backing, afraid that he's about to get collapsed on.
Yeah, maybe he just didn't have any information there and was worried that there was a lot of backup coming for Kinder Warrior, but really, because we have the aerial view, we knew he actually kind of was alone and out of resources, so just unfortunate. I think Kana maybe just didn't have enough to know that maybe he had a chance for that poor Unbots, but instead he'll just back and rejoin the squad. Nothing wrong with being safe.
It looks like he used his ultimate to get there a little faster, but the problem was after the Gold Fury was completed, Outcold Gaming pushed far north, so I guess that separated the distance away from making any sort of good usefulness out of that rotation from Kana.
He didn't find much there, as Synortis just now starting to work on a little bit of pen in the build, the Obsidian Shard. He went Soul Reaver third item, which we don't see a ton, to try and punish some of these HP builds coming out from Bedtime's Calling. But once he gets that Ob Shard finished, the Scylla damage will go from absurd to just truly silly. So things are starting to get even worse for Bedtime's, and poor Raiden never had a chance. Locked down by Dragon King, and Just Lion provided the damage.
Still looking for a little bit more as the Fafnir going to use that ultimate. Already going into the World Serpent, finding multiple people.
That's good, though. This is finally the fight they wanted. A knock-up right into the ultimate. It just wasn't anywhere near enough. Synortis, in fact, still alive. And now Kana, without the safety of the ultimate's in trouble. He at least gets Synortis from range. I wonder if there was some reflect damage. Yes, he has the Thorns, but Just Lion finds one, too.
A great ultimate from Kinder Warrior. Going to lose out Synortis as well. Sarpei takes the spill, so it's only Scott Bros left standing, and that's going to be a hot deicide. And this is what allows Outcold Gaming such a dominating fashion, is when they find one pick, they don't only look for one. They go for 2, 3, and now this time a total of 5, and even a Fire Giant to boot.
Probably not super intentional using the beats there from Kinder Warriors. Through space and time comes out from Bedtime's Calling. That means at least Raiden will get here in time to try and contest the objective, but they drop it as a unit, and they immediately go to try and punish the Giannis. He is able to get away with that with another portal, which means that he's out. He's done his job, though. Fire Giant stopped.
They were more afraid of the Bacchus rotation, I believe, than the Giannis. They're still going to try it, though, at the end of the day. Great call from Outcold Gaming, securing the Fire Giant, not even 20 minutes in.
Nice job. Remember, that wasn't the enhanced version yet that's caused so much trouble throughout competitive Smite. That was just that first version. But Outcold played very well, as you say, juggling that aggro, bouncing off of it, handling the aggression, then getting right back onto the objective, truly using their lead to confirm it, and now up about 8,000 gold. The task becomes even more difficult for Bedtime's Calling.
So I took a mental note during that last team fight of how it started off onto Raiden over there. And the thing was that when he got CC'd by Dragon King, he just didn't use the beats or the Aegis. He didn't really respect the burst potential damage from Outcold Gaming. And when you're not going to give a respect to a Scylla, you're just asking for a bad time. And I think Bedtime's Calling needs their mid player to respect that damage. Without their Giannis, the rest of their team really crumbles. Without the thresholds, without the portals, the through space and time mobility or disengage factor, and Outcold Gaming were just relentless after that first pick.
Yeah, because of that play, they didn't have any of their carries there. It's just Lion way over by the Chaos side red buff, catches out Raiden and blows him up. So that's twice now he's fallen to him. At least this time, though, he used the relics.
Yes.
It just turns out they weren't enough. Just Lion puts him down anyway. Tier 2 and right comes down, and Just Lion threatens the Tier 2 in mid as well. The map now entirely controlled of Outcold. At Bedtime's Calling, struggling just to find a defensive position.
Getting a Tier 2 mid tower very cleanly after that pick onto Raiden, jumping back under the Phoenix. Denial, not going to have that for re-engage purposes. Kinder Warrior just kind of showing off now at this point, using his beads, all willy-nilly, using the jump without a care in the world.
That's right. Maybe trying to get up and over Kana's spit there, but then he landed back down. Yeah, he's just having some fun, Kinder Warrior. He had a good game, so certainly he can. Though I've really been impressed here by Dragon King. He's been the one that's kind of setting this up. Remember you talked about it? He's the one that set up the kill by purple buff so that Cynortus could just use Crush, and then they would still have the ultimate available to secure the objective. It's been a lot of good control coming out from this Fafnir.
A little bit of action between solo laners at 22 minutes, but I wanted to talk about the jump actually from Kinder Warrior. Funny story about, like, a lot of Anhurs will fake jump by just jumping in place because of how long the animation is and just a loud, boisterous sound it makes. You can really juke people out by using that jump.
Maybe even try and force out some round or something like that if they freak out too much. As Primal Fury goes down, unfortunately they've already grabbed the objective, though if they end up coming back around one more time, should be that much easier to burn down the Fire Giant. Couldn't quite threaten the Phoenix just yet, but they have a chance now to push up all their waves. They're right around that halfway point. So once they back, it's been some gold. Shouldn't be too hard to get sieging.
And a lot of gold they definitely have, Finch. 13,000 in the lead between these two teams. Outcold Gaming really showing why they are 6-0 in this league.
13,000 totally. Is that good?
Some people don't like 13, so I don't know. It depends who you ask.
That's right. It's a bit of an unlucky number. Certainly been lucky for Outcold, at least here in this game so far, as they do have to make sure they stay on top of this lead. There are some scary factors coming through. Sarpei is starting to finish up this crit. He's got Rage, though, with very few stacks, and Deathbringer now completed, so we'll certainly be swinging at this point. Soul Reaver actually completed for Kana, so there'll be more damage now coming through, but maybe they need some more tankiness from him. Just pointing out that Bedtime's Calling aren't going to entirely go away unless Outcold make them.
There's definitely burst potential, and how easy it is between those two global gods that you mentioned, Finch. It's very difficult, I think, for Outcold Gaming to be aggressive if Bedtime's Calling decides to return the favor. But if they're going to get caught out like this on the right side of the map, then they're never going to have an opportunity to do anything.
It sounds like Kana's okay with trading out his ultimate here for grabbing this Tier 1 tower a little bit more clear. So
he's buying so much time.
Yeah, eventually he is going to have to use it. Now it comes out. But as you said, he's bought his team some time and is able to just leave. He is the World Serpent after all, so he's gone.
That is so far. All the way from the Tier 2 tower towards the Fire Giant buff. Pretty much more than a Thor, Thanatos, or Ratatoskr ultimate, and that slippery snake gets into safety now, but Bedtime's Calling can't really do anything off of it. Like, they bought time so that they keep their Phoenixes alive, but they weren't able to split push on the left side of the map during the Tier 1 mid tower, while the Soul Laner was just absorbing everyone's attention on the right side.
This next Fire Giant will be up. Though they're not going to stick around. This is actually probably good time. I mean, we talk about this a lot, you and I in particular, about if you're this close to the enhanced version, how do you play it?
Min-max it.
And so by waiting, they should be able to grab it as soon as it switches over to the enhanced Fire Giant instead of trying to burst it down before.
And that's the difference between Season 5 and Season 6. In Season 5 and earlier seasons, you had to actually have the Fire Giant respawn at 25 minutes. So if you got the Fire Giant before 20 minutes, you're actually punishing yourself because the next one isn't going to be enhanced. But this time around in Season 6, it'll just change at the 25-minute mark without having to respawn in itself. So when you do have that lead, just a good way to min-max it is pay attention to the timers.
That's right. And so now Outcold can come over and grab the stronger version. They'll be able to ignore those backdoor protections and be even stronger, though they must be careful about it. Bedtime's Calling are going to be here for the defense. There's no Phoenixes for them to worry about. Kana goes into his ultimate right away, and he finds the carries and knocks them both up. Wow. In fact, Just Lion's taking a ton of damage from this, so Kana's certainly done his job to keep them out.
And Cynortus needs to do something about this. Even getting knocked up, forced to use the Aegis through space and time is used, but nobody's going through the portal, Finch.
That's right. I thought for sure maybe they would use this opportunity to get back there and chase out these low carries. Sarpei got in one crit, but immediately gets blown up. Just Lion hits delete and removes him from the game. Now the rest of the squad, without a lot of their damage, in some trouble. Fear No Evil controls both. Kinder Warrior finds the first, and Just Lion the second. That fight looked good, but in a flash, it's over.
Oh my goodness, Psynortus is a monster, really punishing Sarpei for being that far forward by himself. Everyone else from Outcold Gaming was beside him. Everyone else from Outcold Gaming finding their fourth pick, looking for Raiden. He is very slippery as a Giannis. I think they're just going to focus on the Fire Giant instead.
Man, both of those soul laners did such a good job in that fight. Yes, Kana had both Just Lion and Psynortus busy, but his equal, Fatality Fire, was in the back line doing the same thing to Bedtime's Calling. Through space and time from Raiden was the only way he could try and follow up Kana, but they just couldn't get there, and because of it, they ended up all split up, and that fight went out Cold's way.
Something we didn't mention in terms of keeping Psynortus alive was the important shell from Dragon King, and it's also the upgraded shell, absorbing 2 basic attacks. And against the Mercury, those 2 basic attacks sometimes is all he needs to find a kill on a level 20 Scylla at this point in the game. So perfect timing from Dragon King. Psynortus with a nice kill, 4 kills after the fact from Outcold Gaming, rewards them their second Fire Giant of the game.
But Outcold Gaming looking very clean here. You know, we talk about this region in particular a lot, PS Tour EU, where it feels sometimes like the team that makes the fewest mistakes is the one that comes out on top. But that's no way to describe the way Outcold's played here today. They've been in the driver's seat. They've been making clean, concise calls. The entire team has been there following them as well. Right now, Outcold just look like just a good team that's beating Bedtime's Calling, who, again, have a slightly different look, so this might not be their full strength, but certainly Outcold look good, and Denial, we'll have to see him later.
So at level 20, Hunbat's Fear No Evil lasts 2 seconds.
Long time.
It took less than 2 seconds completely to kill this level 17 Bacchus. Doesn't have the most tankiness in the world, sitting at about 4.5 defensive items, but he's still a Bacchus that has mitigation through his passive.
Right. He might be regretting the Void Stone at this point in the build. If that was something like an Oni's, maybe there'd be a better chance. But I agree. In that situation, it doesn't matter what you have. He's so isolated, and they're so far ahead on Outcold that you're going to blow up either way. And now they threaten this left side. Phoenix, but Kana can't even make it into the ultimate. Just Lion again with the damage from the Xbalanque blows him up. Sarpei losing the trade against Kinder Warrior. Where the crits at, my man? That's not helping him out. Fatality Fire chases Scott Bros all the way back to the fountain, and now the Titan under siege.
Draconic form being used. Dragon King with the AoE coerce. A beautiful ultimate out of Psynortus grants Outcold Gaming their first victory of the set.
They take down Bedtime's Calling, and they do it in dominant fashion, not even 29 minutes, and Outcold Gaming grabbed that win. And I was talking about this a little bit during the game. I wouldn't even have classified that as an early game comp, but they came into the 17-minute mark with like a 4 or 5k gold lead.
That's true. I think the important thing was keeping their speed buff alive. The early aggression by Denial was just so close, but yet so far. I think that Psynortus was left unchecked throughout the early to mid stages, and a beautiful shell from Dragon King yet again in the late game to make sure that Sarpei wasn't going to get his team back into it.
Yeah, for me, it was that Bedtime's Calling wanted the solo lane pressure. That didn't work. They gave over the duo mid pressure to Cold, and it's just hard to win that way. Either way, though, we'll get it back over to the desk. I want to hear their thoughts as well.
Thank you very much, Finch and Tolly. Outcold Gaming continue to look like the best team in the region because, well, they have been so far. Just Lion in particular in this game, Taco, I mean, what, 9-0-6 on the Xbalanque? Just completely dominant on the god that they ended up first picking.
We were just talking about the potency of Outcold Gaming's duo lane, and there's a reason why they keep continuing to prioritize all of Just Lion's picks in those first 3 couple of picks and bans. When you can get him on the Xbalanque and he's able to go 9-0 and have just so much impact throughout team fights between the Darkest Night, just a general player damage as a whole. I think that all of that dual lane pressure just benefited Outcold Gaming so heavily that despite losing a little bit on the solo side of the map, it didn't really matter because they just had so much pressure coming out of duo.
Yeah, Bedtime's Calling had a great open to this game. It felt like they were in a really good spot. Kana was playing very, very well on this Jormungandr, but just didn't end up bringing enough to the left side of the map because it was complete dominance over there by Just Lion. He gets an early tier 1 tower. I mean, all that pressure on the solo side ended up not mattering at all for Bedtime's Calling.
And so it almost begs the question of maybe it's time for Bedtime's Calling to go back to the drawing board and look to try and stay a little bit more focused towards that duo side, because Okana doesn't seem like he's having many problems, if any at all, dealing with his own laning phase. So perhaps just keep all of the focus on suppressing Just Lion. Don't let him get to a stage where he's just one-shotting everybody, even underneath the Phoenixes.
It really easy for the kid. 9-0-6, as we mentioned, for Just Lion. The Transcendence boots into Aussie. You heard Finch talking about a little bit on the cast. Now, a little bit more potent than it ever was, just because Aussie, a true Tier 3 item that Just Lion was putting to great effectiveness in this one. On the other side, the Giannis in the mid lane was okay. Sarpei had a particularly difficult game in the jungle. He did very little player damage. I think the early Mercury pick really came back to haunt Bedtime's Calling.
Yeah, the early Mercury pick, I think, was just a little bit too revealing of just how low pressure the rest of Bedtime's Calling laning phases were going to be in comparison to solo. I think that being arguably the only lane that they really had any pressure to try and work off of. But when you're losing both mid and duo, you have to expect a little bit of that trickle-down effect to start coming into play. And not only that, but Kinder Warrior as well, also just keeping himself well-positioned to prevent Sarpei from ever having some of the more impactful sonic booms throughout team fights.
A lot of times we saw Kinder Warrior zoning away Sarpei by himself, 1v1ing the enemy jungler, and usually Mercury wants those 1v1s, but Kinder Warrior was just far enough ahead in each of those instances where one time they're going for Gold Fury and he's zoning him in mid. There at the end of the game, he's zoning him by mid Phoenix. Those one-on-ones were just not going Sarpei's way. So I agree with you. I think it's just a different jungle pick would go a long way here for Bedtime's Calling.
It's something that has a little bit more flow, at least with your mid laner, because Giannis and Mercury, at best, you're getting a special delivery into Unstable Vortex through space and time. That's not really the follow-up of like a wombo combo that you're looking for there.